As the first light touched the dry savanna of northern Tanzania, the small Hadza village began to stir. The men sat around the fire checking bowstrings, straightening arrows, and readying their tools. A few studied the wind, called the dogs in, and went over the plan for the day. No one treated it lightly. Every hunt started with focus. Today they would push past familiar ground, deeper into country where predators often appeared. At first light, the dry savanna of northern Tanzania began to stir. Around the fire, the Hadza men checked their bows, straightened their arrows, and prepared for the hunt. They watched the wind, gathered the dogs, and reviewed their route. But this morning was different. They planned to venture deeper into the bush, where signs of predators had recently appeared. The warning came the day before. Several women had heard a powerful roar near their root-gathering area and discovered fresh claw marks on a tree. Later, the dogs found large paw prints near the thorn bushes, evidence that a male lion had passed through. Birds suddenly scattered, and a herd of zebras changed direction. The signs were clear. The lion was still nearby. Now the men had to find out whether it was simply passing through or moving dangerously close to their village. They moved only when they were sure the danger had passed. Nearly 2 hours of tracking had produced no sighting, but the wind carried the lion's scent, while alarm calls echoed through the brush. Then, as they rounded a thorn bush, the male lion suddenly emerged from the dry grass and faced them. It charged without warning, and the hunters released their arrows in an instant. The clash was over quickly. Wounded but still powerful, the lion turned away, looked back once, and disappeared into the bush. With camp still a few hours away, the dogs suddenly locked onto another trail. A wild hog exploded from a thorn thicket, sending the men scrambling to block its escape. One hunter loosed an arrow, striking the animal as it ran. The hog disappeared into another patch of dense brush, and the hunters followed close behind. As they prepared to leave the forest, one hunter noticed bees hovering near an old tree. Following their flight, the group discovered a large hive hidden inside the hollow trunk. They decided to take some honey home. One man quickly fashioned a simple tool to reach the hive while the others burned dry grass and used the smoke to drive the bees away. They collected only what they needed, leaving most of the honey behind for the colony and for another visit later. The dogs announced their return before the hunters reached camp. Women quickly cleared a space, gathered firewood, and put water on to boil. When the hunters arrived with the meat, the village came alive. Some prepared the game while others worked around the fire. Nearby, an older hunter passed his knowledge on to the younger men. No one claimed more because they had made the best shot. The food was shared across the community because the meal belonged to everyone, not just the hunters who brought it home. The Hadza don't survive the wilderness by trying to overpower it. They survive by paying attention, staying patient, and knowing when to move and when to wait. One careless decision can turn a long hunt into an empty walk home. For generations, they have learned to read the land, follow its signals, and adapt instead of forcing their way through it. That quiet connection with nature may be the most powerful lesson their way of life has to offer. Dawn spread across the dry savanna of northern Tanzania, washing the thorny acacias and red earth in soft gold. There were no engines or city sounds, only wind moving through the grass, birds calling from the trees, and footsteps fading almost silently into the wild. Long before sunrise, the Hadza camp was already awake. No clocks were needed. The hunters simply knew when it was time to leave. A small group slipped into the darkness, wooden bows over their shoulders and arrows ready. There were no commands or lengthy discussions. A few quiet looks and nods were enough. For the Hadza, a successful hunt depends less on strength than on experience, patience, and the ability to read the smallest signs left by the land. Their first stop was an area where fresh wild boar tracks had been spotted the night before. The prints were still sharp in the cool sand. One hunter knelt, studied the trail, and signaled the others forward. They moved carefully through the brush, avoiding dry branches and keeping their footsteps quiet. All the while, they watched the wind. If their scent carried ahead, the boars could disappear long before the hunters ever got close. The hunting dogs suddenly became alert. Instead of scattering, they turned with purpose, signaling that a herd of wild boars was nearby. The hunters quickly spread out, forming a wide circle to block possible escape routes. An arrow flashed from the shadows. A boar burst through the brush, slowed, and finally stopped. Once the hunters knew it was safe, they moved in and finished the hunt as quickly as possible. There were no cheers, only a moment of silence and quiet respect for an animal that would provide food for the community. But wild boars are not the greatest danger on the savanna. Sometimes, fresh lion tracks appear in the soft earth. The Hadza understand that a lion is a different kind of threat, an apex predator built for speed, power, and attack. They do not pursue lions for sport or pride. If they ever confront one, it is because the animal has become a genuine threat to their camp or their survival. When fresh tracks from a male lion appeared, the hunters stopped and studied the land. They listened to the birds, tested the wind, and watched the savanna for any sudden movement. Rather than risk a dangerous encounter, they chose another path. For the Hadza, knowing when to walk away can be just as important as knowing when to move forward. They don't see themselves as masters of the wilderness, but as part of it, sharing the land with every creature that depends on it. By sunset, the hunters returned to camp with whatever the day had provided. Smoke rose from the fire as wild boar roasted over the coals, and the smell spread through the village. There was no table, no private portion, and no one kept the best pieces for themselves. Children and elders were served first, and the rest was passed from hand to hand until everyone had enough. For the Hadza, sharing isn't a rule that needs to be enforced. It is simply the way their community has endured for generations. What sets the Hadza apart isn't simply their ability to hunt wild boar or face the danger of lions. It's their restraint. They take what they need and leave the rest behind. In a world built around speed, consumption, and always wanting more, their way of life offers a powerful reminder. Abundance isn't always about having more. Sometimes it's knowing when you have enough and appreciating what the land has already given you. Dawn breaks across the Tanzanian savanna. No alarms, no phones, no glowing screens, only wind through the grass and footsteps in the dust. While many of us struggle to imagine a day without technology, the Hadza continue a way of life shaped by the natural world. For the next 24 hours, we follow their daily rhythm, without electricity, clocks, or modern conveniences. And one question hangs over the journey. When technology disappears, what matters more, instinct, experience, or skill? The Hadza rise with the land around them. The hunters shoulder handmade bows and arrows, simple tools that can determine whether the village eats that day. Their target is a troop of baboons, among the savanna's most alert and unpredictable animals. Moving almost silently, the men follow every sign while younger hunters watch closely, learning through observation rather than instruction. For the Hadza, hunting isn't something mastered from a lesson, it's a skill passed down through experience. The first hunt of the day offers no guarantees. Tracks appear and disappear across dry soil and tangled thorn bushes, forcing the hunters to slow down and read every detail. After hours of tracking, movement finally catches their attention high in the trees. The baboons are there. One clean opportunity is all they get. An arrow flies, striking its target, and one baboon drops from the branches. The hunt is over almost as quickly as it began, quiet, deliberate, and respectful. Not long after, the hunters discover fresh signs that a lion has passed through a dense stretch of brush. Relying on skills refined over generations, they quietly surround the area and respond with calm precision. Every move is deliberate. By staying disciplined and working together, they manage the encounter without injury, despite facing one of the savanna's most powerful predators.